Hi, welcome back to my High Plains Life. I'm Danielle, your host. It is June 4th, and this is episode 42. I'd like to welcome all returning viewers. Thank you. If you're interested in knitting, spinning, quilting, beekeeping, gardening, crafting, this is the podcast for you. Let your friends know and subscribe on the needles. I have no FOs. It's been a couple weeks. You think I would? I don't. Sorry. I do have several whips. Still in progress. I have worked on them. The Supergirl socks for my niece. They're for a 4-year-old. Soon to be 5. They're kid socks. How long can they take? I'm still knitting. Knitting. I don't know. The Black Hole of Children's Socks. Okay. I've got 2 projects in my bag by Mrs. Brown's Bags. It's my Bee Splat bag. The children's socks and my lattice socks. Okay. Believe it or not, I have made progress on these. I picked up around above the heel, where the heel finished, and I ripped back. You can see the yarn I ripped back. You've still not reached the point of my previous progress. That's okay. I'm working on it. So, lattice socks. I'm not sure who the designer is. You can find the link to my Ravelry page in the show notes. So this time I am doing a double wrap around the slip with yarn in front. So look, they're actually stretchy this time. You might be able to get them over your heel. And yes, I am periodically trying them on because I am fearful of the same issue happening again. Because while there's more give this time, it's definitely not quite the give of stockinette, plain stockinette would be. So, but they are out of hiatus. Pulled them out of the dunce corner, ripped back, and am continuing on them. Yay! And I think I finally have the pattern memorized after all this time. I think. So, that is the socks that I have been knitting on. I have also been knitting on my Runa, which is a cardigan by Gudrun Johnston. And this is in my new waxed canvas bag. It's plaid. You can barely tell. Loving the bag. Loving the knit. I am, yay, on the end of a row. This is the right side. Okay. Right side. Yay! Fat lady arms. As Amy Beth of the Fat Squirrel calls it, she's getting over her fat lady arms and doing what she calls exposure therapy to everybody else, the rest of the world. Guess what? You're being exposed to my arms. Okay, so the right-hand side, I love that little detail on the bottom. Even feathering skeins in, I think you can still see where that next skein jumped in. Driving me crazy. I refuse to alternate the entire thing. I feathered and trading rows for quite a while. But it'll just have to be something that I accept and get used to. So it's a handmade item. I have finished with the decrease rows. There were several because it's supposed to be more A-liney, coming in underneath the bust where it buttons, and then increasing again for the bust. So I've done the decrease rows. I have about 5 or 6 more rows to go before I join back in the part of the pattern that is for all sizes. So right now I'm still working it for my size. Slow and steady. I'm enjoying the knit. It gets a little warm. It's getting bigger. It's getting a little warm on my lap. But that's what AC is for, right? Sure. So, Runa by Gudrun Johnston. And I'm still enjoying it. Slow, but I'm enjoying it. And I cast on one other project. I was talking about my Handmaiden. What's the yarn? Maidenhair by Handmaiden with silk and kid mohair. And how like mohair, everybody's doing a mohair project these days. And it's beautiful. It was on sale. I bought it. I hand wound it. Isn't that beautiful? It's taking, I tried not to do it tightly because I kind of enjoy the kink in the maidenhair. That's kind of one of the characteristics I liked. So we have the maidenhair. And I thought I would hold it double with something. So I pulled out some bamboo. Oh, it's squished. Squished bamboo. This is Bamboo 7. Silk City Fibers. It's 100% bamboo. And I don't know how many yards of this I have, but I'm sure I have at least 600 yards there, right? It's a pretty solid skein, other than the fact it got squished. 100% bamboo, beautiful drape, and very soft. So I'm holding it double for the Mix 24 cowl, or the Dragon Scale cowl. I love the one that Joanna of Opera Joe is making. I adore her Dragon Scale cowl. It's beautiful green, beautiful knit. So I'm holding these together, and this is kind of what it looks like. And I cast on. I have maybe 4 rows for a couple reasons. One, I cast on at knit group. Not a smart idea. I think I cast on an extra 10 stitches because my counting was off. And I just didn't want to bother to recount over 200 stitches, so I didn't count. I think my cast on number's off. And I'm not sure if I'm liking the fabric together of the maidenhair with the bamboo. When I look at this, it looks green. It's not, my lighting's really bad today. I'm sorry, there's no natural light in this house right now. It's green, a light green, but green. When it's with the maidenhair, it's not really showing up as such. I don't know. I went down a needle size to a 5, a US 5, from what the pattern called for, which was a 6. I'm not sure what that is in metric. So I thought I would like the fabric, but I don't know if it's just because I need to knit a little bit more, if I need to go down another needle size so it's a little denser. Unsure. I would ask advice, but I know exactly what you're going to tell me. Counter stitches, Danielle. If it's too many, rip it out. Cast on again. Yeah, I know. Okay. I'll think about it. I'll rip it out. I'll start again. Again, that's the Mix 24 cowl. Can't remember. It's a designer working with Shibui Knits. And this is in my Beady Sisters bag with mustaches. So that is my knitting. I have been doing some spinning, and it is, I think I showed you this already, but I can't remember. So I have finally pulled out my supported spindle by Silly Salmon Spindles. I bought it on Etsy. I love their work. And when I bought some top from Into the World, they sent a little Ziploc of just some fun yarn. So I spun that up. I finally finished it, loving it, and I'm gonna start spinning a little bit of alpaca. So this is in just a wine canister thing, but it's works great to keep my spindle protected. I do not have a support spindle bowl. I've been using a glass dish from the kitchen. I wish I did because the dish is just a little too big. I really need something with more of a central point. So that's the support spindle. And then I have been spinning on a spindle that my dad made for me in my beautiful Ziploc bag. I asked my dad to make me several spindles, and he did. I gave him an example spindle, one that I'd purchased. I told him the weight I was looking for, the length, dimensions, kind of. And my dad made these huge spindles. They're not quite, but you could probably use them as like Navajo spindles. That's how big they are. But there were a few that were useful and were lightweight enough. And this is one of them. My dad is a word worker, if you couldn't tell. And he just did some walnut and some maple, maybe, and just laminated them together. And it's kind of an odd shape, but I like it, and it works well for this. It's a little heavy, but silk is actually very strong. So I've been spinning a silk mawada, or a silk hanky, that I hand dyed myself. Food coloring, one of the first things I ever did. Food coloring vinegar in a casserole dish in the oven at 175 degrees. I've been pulling it apart, and it's kind of cool because there is a little purple in here. Then there's like some bright turquoisey spots too. So I've been pulling it apart so it's actually more in the bell shape, like how they make them now. So pull a layer off at a time, spin it. You discover every rough spot on your fingers that you have, which unfortunately gardening season is not conducive to silk spinning, but I like it. I'm in a spindle mood right now. So if you can see, I get a couple nubs every now and then because it's silk. But overall, I think I've been spinning fairly consistently, and it's fairly fine too. That's doubled. That's doubled up. I've enjoyed it. So that is my silk Mawata on a spindle made by my dad in my Ziploc bag because we're high class like that. What can I say? That's what I had at the time. Yay! So that is my spinning. I have been stocking nothing because I just haven't had time. I actually have not been on Ravelry that much in the last few weeks. Regardless of what my knitting progress shows, I have been pretty busy. My parents visited. So what we do when my mother comes is we quilt. So I got a lot of quilting done. I'm going to show you my acquisitions first. And it's fabric, so it's applicable. My Quilt Guild sent out a blast email. Not a guild member, but a fellow quilter had died, and her husband was selling off her supplies. She had well beyond Sable, which is stash acquisition beyond life expectancy. Unfortunately for her, but good for us, so much fabric. They had a garage sale one day. Didn't even touch a bit of it. She has a long arm quilter he's looking to sell. He can't even reach it because there's so much fabric in the way. I don't know what the room looks like. They were selling fabric by the pound. He plans on having 2 or 3 more of these garage sale days. So I bought a bunch of fabric by the pound. Who could resist a brown harlequin? Gotta do it. This beautiful fabric. Beautiful, gorgeous. Just a little bit of it. With some cord knitting, of course. Just some blues. What I was looking for was background fabrics, blenders. Things that could be used with other prints to fit into a quilt. Because I discovered while looking through fabrics with my mother that I have quite a few focus fabrics. Most of it's focus fabrics, let's be honest, which are strong prints that don't really blend well into other quilts, but need a quilt designed and focused around that fabric. So, looked for just a lot of blenders. That popped bright. That is actually more turquoise. Some blues. Some more blues. Little red print. Thought it would blend. Yes, it's a floral, but I thought I could use it for the back of something. Some greens. Just some green blenders. And this purpley fabrics that I kind of like, but thought would make great backings or blenders. Yeah. So, fabric by the pound. I don't know how many yards I have in here, but I spent $70. There might even be some more fabric that I've already put away. This is pretty heavy. Wow. It was $8 a pound. Sorry, forgot to say. and a pound has about 4 yards. So $2 a yard for quilting fabric. I couldn't resist. So those are my acquisitions. Boom. Wow, that's a lot. Ready to be put away and worked into my next quilt. Speaking of which, we have Under the Needle. I did a lot of quilting while my mother was here. We started over Christmas a black and white square crazy circle quilt. I showed you the blocks in a previous episode. Well, she came and we worked on putting those tops together while she was here. I need to figure out how to make the first one into a king-size quilt. I could, adding some borders to it, I could do a queen with some fiddling, but I'm trying, the person I would like to gift it to has a king-size bed. I'd like it to be used as a bed quilt, but again, I don't have enough fabric to make more squares, so I can't do another round. I don't want it to be a quilt focusing on the borders. I want it to focus on the central design. And this, an example of what it's like. It's not pretty. I also had enough blocks, and different blocks. If you've noticed, these are 2 fabric blocks. And these are 3 fabric blocks. 1, 2, 3. So they have an extra ring to them. I'll insert a photo of this quilt also. Love it. Beautiful. I added this blue border. My husband says it's green. It's not. It's like a turquoise blue. Silly colorblind man. Ooh, a fabric I also bought at the quilt shop. It's this. And I thought this would make a great border for this quilt. I don't think there's enough to border the other one. But, so I have 2 quilt tops sort of almost kind of done. We were at good stopping points on those. And at that point, I just went in my closet and pulled out another box, like a plastic bin, of another unfinished quilt. This one is Earth, Wind, and Fire by Linda Ballard. And it's 16 blocks, 16 big blocks put together in this star and log cabin print. It's been more than 3 years because I took this workshop while I was still working before I ever took off on disability. Years ago, I did this workshop and started this quilt top. Mine is being made out of red and green, 1 block. Yay! And I've got the other blocks in progress. They're about, all the central stars are done. All the fabric is cut. All the central stars are done. And the first round of the log cabin design is sewed on. And now I'm just doing everything assembly line. They need 2 more rows of strips around them. And then that quilt is ready to put together. I already have the border fabric and very excited. Yay! Go quilting. Additionally, I ordered, because I was mentioned that I wanted to practice using my home machine to quilt and to do some hand quilting in the evenings while we're sitting watching TV. So I looked into it, and the cheapest slash what I thought would be the easiest way was to make my own stencils, because there are a gazillion quilt patterns online for free that you could turn into stencils. They're, cheap to print out. You just print it out on your home printer in the size that you want. That's the thing, like I could resize the pattern to fit my block, which is what I wanted. So I did that, printed out, buy some template plastic, and the easiest way was to use a double-bladed, hopefully there's no glare, a double-bladed X-Acto knife. This was impossible to find. Well, obviously not impossible. I had to go, the only place I could find that sold it was Widget Inc. It's this random company that supplies odds and ends, all the little tools that you can't find anywhere else but you need. Widget Inc. Awesome. Made by X-Acto. Double-bladed X-Acto knife, so that when I slice the template plastic, it creates a channel that then I can pop out and use as my stencil. As you can see, smaller, larger. This is my first attempt. It doesn't look too pretty. Obviously, I'm not very smooth with it yet. But then I take this with it's called a quilt pouncer, chalk pouncer, and you just pounce it and it chalks your fabric, and it comes off when you iron. Perfect. So I've got that going, and I'm going to mark up a quilt top that I want to work on. In the garden, the yard work commences. I have trimmed my tree today. It still needs more, but that's all I could really reach at the moment. It's a little lopsided. The vines are trellised, perennials are trimmed, weeds are slowly being pulled. I have not planted the garden due to the weeds in the garden. You know the whole saga with the crap dirt the landscaper left me last year. So, garden weeds, hopefully it'll get cleared and I can still plant this year. Like, there are things that you plant in rotation that I can do. I just won't be able to do crops that require a full growing season. In the Beeyard. Yay! I have bees again. I'm so excited, everybody. I have stuck with keeping the bees at Homestake Nursery. I did look for an alternate location. Nothing showed up that was really what I was looking for. I want easy access and a location that's close, because that was the whole point, is I want to be able to just pop in when I only have an hour, because it takes about an hour to do a hive inspection. So I was looking for an alternate place, but when I went to go pull some equipment I had left at Homestake Nursery, there was this perfect dirt road, packed down path right up to my hive location. So I was like, yay! Set up my hives. I set up 2 of them. It was great. My bee packages arrived mid-May. I installed my packages, hung my queens on the frames, left them there for a few days, went back, released the queens. They both seem to be doing well. They are Carniolan queens, and they are marked, which I did not ask for, but I'm so grateful for. And this year happens to be red. So marking queens goes on a 5-year cycle. There's 5 different colors: yellow, white, red, green, blue, I think. Don't quote me on that. 5-year cycle 2018 is red. Yay! 2 carniolan queens marked, released, and I thought I'd pushed all my frames together, but didn't quite make it in one of the hives. And put some feeders on and walked away. Went back today to check on the queens to make sure they were laying, that I had some capped brood, and to refill the feeders. Change in status, my road is no longer there. Good morning. This is my car. There are my hives. Here is what used to be the road to my hives. It is now covered in dropped manure. That is going to set and compost for a while. So, way in there are my hives. So I've got to carry a 5-gallon bucket of sugar water out to them. And hopefully my equipment, and I can make it all in one trip. So I lugged my equipment through the manure and performed my hive inspection, refilled the feeders. I am seeing a definite difference between the 2 hives. One of it has a bit more brood than the other. It also had some cross comb because I did not push the frames close enough together. There was too much space between them, so they had built some cross comb. And so I pulled those frames out, cut off the comb, squished a little bit of brood, and put the frames back together. I saw both the queens, beautiful young queens, marching over the frames. There's more brood in one hive than the other, and I think that might be due to the fact that they have the top feeder on them versus it's called a Boardman feeder, which is just a quart mason jar sitting in the front of the hive. So that emptied first, obviously, and the other one still had just a little bit of sugar water left. So hopefully it's the difference in the feed that they had supplied to them. The queen that did not have as much brood in her hive, I actually watched her lay an egg. It was so cool. I had pulled a frame. The queen was on that frame. I watched her march around, and she stuck her butt into an empty comb, stayed there for a little bit, and then started marching on. And I'm like, I just watched her lay an egg. That was so cool. I love beekeeping. I can talk about it for hours, but I will spare you. Okay. So, in addition to my feeding them, I'm hoping that they're out and about getting some additional nectar. I've noticed bees on my catmint and on some of my other perennials. I don't know if they're from my hive or not. Later in the summer, like after this first brood hatches out, the bees should start getting darker. Carniolans are darker than Italians. And so the color of the bees that I have should change after the initial bees die out, and all the ones that are left are those that have hatched from this carniolan queen. So again, unsure whose bees they are, but somebody's in my perennials. Yay! Have a lot of information for off topic. I'm already over half an hour, which is what I like to keep it at, but like I said, it's been several weeks and a lot has happened. My parents came to visit and they stayed for almost 2 weeks, 12 days. And I got my bed fixed. Yay! My dad had built me a mission style bed out of cherry for our wedding. Dad fixed it. Yay! And other than that project, I tried not to give him other projects to do. and just threw some books at him and let him sit on the couch and read, which he was entirely happy with. As I showed previously, my mom and I did a lot of quilting. I took her in a knit group with me twice. Yay! And we played some board games and cards. Sequence is the new favorite. I don't think we had enough attention when we tried playing Anomia. I purchased that on the recommendation of Amy Beth from The Fat Squirrel. She reviews board games every now and then, and she said they had a lot of fun playing it. And so, sorry, it's hot in here and I'm sweating. I bought it off Amazon, and this is the first chance we've had to play it. I picked up on it pretty quick and enjoyed playing it, but I think everybody else kind of wasn't in the right mind frame to pay attention, so we stuck with Sequence, which everybody loves all the time. My parents got me hooked on watching Midsummer Murders, British shows, murder mysteries, so good. You really don't know who did it until the very end. So thanks, guys, for hooking me on yet another TV show. Yay! That is part of what I've been watching and listening to. Another podcast I've begun listening to again is Spin Control by A Joyful Girl. Shiloh has been doing Spin Control for several years now. I've listened to her previously, and then she kind of went off the air for a while. She came back on. I follow her on Instagram too, and she said she was in the middle of a move to Colorado Springs. So exciting. So I told her about my knit group, invited her to come. She did. She's part of my knit group now. How exciting is that? Well, one of the issues with her podcast is that her server crashed, died. Lost back episodes, previous episodes, was just having a lot of computer difficulties. So she was off the air for a while. She is back up. She is recording new episodes. And again, I have always enjoyed listening to her. She discusses some really interesting stuff regarding spinning and her process. And again, I'm just really excited that she's podcasting again and there's new episodes to listen to. If you listened to her previously, you might need to go back and resubscribe to your RSS feed. As I said, she's using a new server now, so if you haven't been receiving the new episodes being pushed through to your RSS feed, that might be why you might need to resubscribe. Highly recommend her to any new listeners. That's all I have for today. It's been a long episode. So I hope you enjoy it. I can be found as Danny Girl Co. on Instagram and Ravelry. And show notes can be found at www.myhighplainslife.blogspot.com. Talk to you later. Bye.